The reactor core's warning klaxons shattered the quiet hum of the Constellation Station's engineering bay. Daniel Reeves barely had time to register the climbing radiation levels before the containment field flickered like a dying star. "Core breach imminent." His console screamed the words in angry crimson letters. "Evacuate Sector 7 immediately." But evacuation wasn't an option, not when a complete meltdown would vaporize 300 souls aboard the station. Daniel's fingers flew across the emergency override, his engineering training kicking in despite the primal fear clawing at his chest. He designed the failsafes himself during his first month aboard. Back when Commander Lysera had questioned every human protocol with her characteristic Zypherian skepticism, the magnetic locks disengaged with a hiss. Daniel grabbed the manual release lever, feeling the heat already radiating through the metal deck plates beneath his boots. "Reeves, withdraw from that sector." Commander Lysera's voice crackled through his cum, sharp with urgency he'd never heard from her before. In 2 years serving under the towering Zypherian officer, he'd never heard anything crack her professional veneer. 30 seconds to stabilize the containment field, Daniel shot back, sweat already streaming down his face. "I can do this." "That's an order, engineer." The explosion cut off her words. The reactor housing ruptured in a cascade of superheated plasma and electromagnetic fury. Daniel felt himself lifted off his feet, his world becoming a kaleidoscope of orange fire and impossible heat. His protective suit's shields flared instantly, burning through their charge in MIC, ROSEC, ONDZ. Then something massive slammed into him from the side, not the explosion, but something solid and deliberate. Arms like steel cables wrapped around him, and he found himself crushed against a body that radiated strength. Through the chaos he glimpsed orange skin and the distinctive bronze armor of a Zypherian command officer. Lysera had launched herself through the blast zone. Her luminescent markings, intricate patterns that traced her cheekbones and throat, blazed brilliant azure as she curled around him. Her broader frame completely enveloped his, and he felt the terrible impact as debris hammered against her back. She didn't make a sound, didn't flinch, just held him tighter as the world burned around them. Then darkness swallowed everything. Consciousness returned in fragments, the antiseptic smell of the infirmary, the gentle pulse of medical scanners, and the undeniable warmth of someone holding him. Daniel's eyes fluttered open to soft blue lighting and the rhythmic beep of his vitals monitor. Every muscle in his body ached with the deep, bone-weary exhaustion that followed radiation exposure, even with treatment. But that wasn't what commanded his attention. Commander Lysera sat in the chair beside his bed, her arms wrapped around him, his head resting against her chest. Her usually immaculate uniform was torn at the shoulders, revealing patches of bandaged orange skin beneath. Her blonde hair, typically bound in the severe military style of her people, fell loose around her face, some strands sticking to her forehead with dried sweat, and she was shaking. The tremors were subtle, almost imperceptible, but Daniel could feel them where their bodies pressed together. Her luminescent markings, those beautiful patterns that normally glowed soft amber during duty hours, had dimmed to the faintest flicker of pale gold. He'd read about this in the cultural briefings. Zypherian's bioluminescence responded to emotional states, and significant dimming indicated severe psychological distress. "Commander?" His voice came out hoarse, throat raw from breathing superheated air. Lysera's eyes snapped open, those striking violet irises that had evaluated him coolly across countless briefing tables. But there was nothing cool about them now. They were wide, vulnerable, swimming with an emotion so intense it made his breath catch. Daniel. Not Engineer Reeves or Mr. Reeves, but his first name, spoken with a softness that sent unexpected heat through his chest. "Don't move. The doctor said you need to remain still." He started to ask why she was holding him, but the words died as her arms tightened fractionally. One of her hands came up to cradle the back of his head with surprising gentleness, fingers threading through his hair in a gesture that seemed almost unconscious. "How long have I been out?" He managed instead. 14 hours. Her voice cracked slightly. 14 hours, 23 minutes, and 18 seconds. The precision of her answer spoke volumes. Lysera was meticulous by nature, but this level of detail suggested she'd been counting every moment, watching, waiting. "And you've been here the whole time?" Her luminescent markings flickered, a brief surge of brighter light that looked almost like embarrassment. Yes." Daniel shifted slightly, testing his body's responses, and immediately felt Lysera's grip tighten again. Not painful, but firm, like she was afraid he might slip away if she loosened her hold. "Commander." "I'm okay," he said gently, though his heart was hammering for reasons that had nothing to do with his injuries. "You can let go." "No." The word came out flat, absolute. Then softer, "Not yet." Through the thin fabric of his medical gown, he could feel her heartbeat, the distinctive three-chambered rhythm of Zephyrian physiology, faster than it should be. Her breathing wasn't steady either, coming in shallow pulls that suggested she was fighting for composure. Lysera. He used her name deliberately and felt the shudder that ran through her frame. "What happened? Why are you were dying?" The words burst from her like a dam breaking. "When the plasma wave hit, your suit's shields failed immediately. The thermal exposure should have killed you in seconds. Would have, if." She stopped, her throat working as she swallowed hard. "I reached you just in time, but you weren't breathing. Your heart had stopped." Daniel's medical training supplied the clinical details she was dancing around. Cardiac arrest from extreme heat exposure, respiratory failure from inhaling superheated air. Fatal, without immediate intervention. "The medical team," he started, "was 40 seconds away." "You didn't have 40 seconds. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I had to perform cardiac compression myself. Had to breathe for you until your lungs started working again. Do you understand? I felt your heart stop beneath my hands." Her markings surged brighter suddenly, pulsing with agitated azure light. The color shift was significant. Zephyrian blue indicated emotional turmoil, a stark contrast to their usual calm amber or professional white. "I've commanded combat missions," Lysera continued, the words tumbling out faster now. "I've lost crew members. I've made the calculations, accepted the acceptable casualties. It's part of command. But when I saw you standing there, trying to save us all, and I knew the blast would kill you." Her voice broke entirely. Her head dipped forward, forehead pressing against his temple in a gesture that felt intensely intimate. "I couldn't accept it. The calculation, the logic, the command protocols, none of it mattered. I just knew I had to reach you." Daniel's breath caught as the full weight of her confession settled over them. Around them, the infirmary hummed with its quiet nighttime routine. But they might as well have been alone in the universe. "You threw yourself into a plasma explosion," he said slowly. "For me, yes. No hesitation, no regret in that single word. You could have been killed. The reactor core, I know." Her arm shifted, one hand sliding down to rest over his heart, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. "I ran the probability calculations while I was moving. 17% chance of reaching you before lethal exposure. 8% chance of us both surviving if I did. Command protocol says those odds don't justify the risk of losing a senior officer, but you did it anyway." Her markings flared bright azure again, pulsing in time with her rapid heartbeat. "Daniel, I—" She pulled back just enough to look at him, and the naked emotion in her violet eyes stole whatever breath he'd managed to recover. "For 2 years, I've watched you. The way you solve impossible problems. The way you treat every crew member with respect, regardless of species. The way you laugh at terrible jokes in the mess hall. The way you stay late to help junior engineers with their calculations. She was cataloging him, he realized, the way she might catalog a star system with meticulous attention to every detail. At first, I thought it was simply professional admiration, Lysera continued, her voice steadying as she finally gave words to what had been building between them. You're brilliant, dedicated, a valuable asset to the station. But then I started noticing other things. The way my markings would brighten when you entered a room. The way I found excuses to review your reports personally instead of delegating them. The way my quarters felt emptier after our evening engineering consultations ended. Daniel's hand moved almost of its own accord, rising to touch her face. His fingers traced the delicate luminescent patterns along her cheekbone, and he felt the tremor that ran through her at the contact. Her markings brightened under his touch, shifting from agitated azure toward warmer tones. And when I saw that reactor explode, she whispered, leaning into his touch like a flower seeking sunlight, I realized the truth. Losing you wasn't an acceptable outcome. It wasn't a calculation or a probability. It was simply impossible. Why are you holding me so closely? Daniel asked softly, though he thought he knew the answer now. Lysera's eyes searched his face, vulnerable in a way that made her seem younger than her 34 standard years. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute truth. Because I almost lost you. And I realized I can't. Her hand over his heart pressed firmer, as if reassuring herself of its steady rhythm. In Zypherian culture, we have a concept, Kestavara. It means the one whose absence unmakes you. We don't fall in love the way humans do, with gradual escalation. When we bond, it's absolute, undeniable, like gravity. Her markings blazed golden now. The warm amber of deep affection mixed with threads of rose colors Daniel had never seen on her before. I held you like this in the ambulance while they stabilized you, she continued. Held you while they treated your burns and flushed the radiation from your system. The medical staff tried to make me leave, said I needed treatment for my own injuries. I refused. I physically couldn't let you go. Daniel felt his own heart racing now, though the monitors betrayed nothing. 2 years of professional distance, of carefully maintained boundaries between commander and subordinate, were crumbling in the wake of her confession. Lysera, he struggled to find words adequate to the moment. You're my commanding officer. The regulations. Damn the regulations. The curse sounded foreign in her usually proper speech. I shielded you with my body because losing you would unmake me. I stayed by your side for 14 hours because anything else was inconceivable. I'm holding you now because I finally understand what humans mean when they talk about love. And I can't pretend anymore that I don't feel it. Her forehead pressed against his again. That intimate gesture that seemed to be her way of seeking connection. So yes, I'm holding you closely. Perhaps too closely for protocol, too closely for propriety. But when your heart stopped beneath my hands, I promised every deity in the Zypherian pantheon that if you survived, I would never waste another moment hiding what I feel. Daniel's hand slid from her cheek to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her loose blonde hair. I'm glad you didn't let go, he whispered. And for the record, I don't want you to. Her luminescent markings exploded into brilliant gold, bright enough to cast gentle shadows across the infirmary walls. And when she smiled, a real, unguarded smile that transformed her face, Daniel felt something in his chest lock into place, like a puzzle piece finding its home. Then I won't, Lysera promised, pulling him closer. Not now. Not ever. Outside the infirmary windows, Constellation Station orbited serenely through the void, its reactor humming safely once more. Inside, in the quiet blue darkness, a commander held her engineer close and let herself feel everything she'd been denying for 2 years. And Daniel, his hand resting over hers where it pressed against his heart, finally understood that sometimes the most logical thing in the universe was to stop calculating odds and simply surrender to gravity.